5th best team in the NBA. Is that true or false? Who wants this first?
I'll go for it first. The reason we use 5th best as the bar is because right now they currently have the 5th best record in the NBA. And right now, I'm going to say that's false. I still don't think the Blazers are one of the top 5 teams in the NBA, which goes to this, having to convince people still in the Pacific Northwest that this is a team that won't fall off a little bit as the season progresses. Right now, I would put them as the 6th best team, though. I think they're right there. But I would give the nod to the 2 best teams in the East, the Raptors and Celtics, although I did think about the Celtics because they haven't been playing that well since the turn of the calendar year. And then I give it in the West, you obviously got the Rockets and the Warriors, but I would also put the Pelicans ahead of the Blazers right now. And the way I thought about this question was, if the Blazers played any team in the NBA tonight, who would I pick them to beat? Who would I pick them to lose to? And there are 5 teams that if they played tonight, I'd pick them to lose to. And those are the 5 I just named. The Raptors, the Celtics, Warriors, Rockets, and the Pelicans. And the Pelicans have just been incredible during this 10-game winning streak. They're scoring 125 points per game, and they're doing it without DeMarcus Cousins. I mean, you got to give the front office credit for getting Nikola Mirotic. They signed Emeka Okafor off the street, and he's giving them productive starter minutes now. I mean, they're really clicking. Drew Holiday's playing like an all-star.
Yeah,
he's averaging 25 points a game over this 10-game winning streak. And I just don't think the Blazers are quite as good as them this year. But I think the fact that we're having this conversation about whether they're the 5th best team in the NBA is once again a signal of how this season over the last month has quickly turned into the positive for the Blazers.
And that is a legitimate conversation that you can genuinely make a case that the Blazers could be the 5th best team in the NBA if you want, and it's because of that record. And I think you're spot on about the Pelicans. The Pelicans have really impressed me. They are scoring all these points, but they've been a good offensive team most of the season. But until the last 10, really 20 games, because before Cousins got hurt, they were actually starting to play well, play better, and then he got hurt and they've taken off. But their defense has been a lot better. So the Pelicans are playing great basketball right now, and if you're not paying attention to them, you should, because they're going to be a tough out in the playoffs. So the way I looked at this is kind of like you. I looked at their record. They have the 5th best record in the NBA, but those standings are bunched so tight. I mean, you've got the Pelicans and the Cavaliers are both tied in the loss column with the Blazers and a half game behind them as far as record goes. So you can't really use that to settle this argument. So I went and looked at some more advanced statistics, and I tried to look back. The Blazers have really been playing well since Christmas. And if you look back since Christmas, they're 23 and 10 since Christmas, which is a 58 win pace. So they've been playing really good basketball since Christmas, and they've just gotten better and better. So I went and I looked at some advanced stats, and I kind of went different intervals, like since Christmas, since the middle of January, since a month ago, February 8th, and since the winning streak started. And in each of those intervals, they've gradually gotten better. But whether they're the 5th best team in the NBA or not, the numbers don't really bear that out until the winning streak. So like since December 23rd, they're 22 and 10. That's the 4th best record in the NBA, but their net rating ranks 12th. And offensive and defensive efficiency, they're 11th. If you fast forward to since February 14th, the win streak, they're 7-0. That's the 3rd best record behind the Rockets and the Pelicans. They're 17th in offense, so their offense has dropped a little bit, though it's still good. I mean, they're scoring about 110 points per 100 possessions, which is good. Their defense has been great. It's 2nd in the NBA since that time. Actually, in the past month, they have the 2nd ranked defense in the NBA, and their net rating is plus 10, which is 5th in the NBA, which is a really good net rating. So if you ask me if right now they're the 5th best team in the NBA, I think so. I think I'd still give them a slight edge over the Pelicans. It would probably depend on home court and where they were playing. But 1 month is not a long enough sample size for me to say, yes, they're the 5th best team in the NBA, because they haven't been all season. It's just been during the stretch. So we kind of have to see how they finish the season out and whether they're able to sustain this level of play not only the rest of the regular season, but into the playoffs.
Yeah. And before you jump in, the beginning of the year when we picked the Blazers to win games, some people are saying this is the Blazers team we expected to see all year. No, this
No,
isn't.
not me.
This is, most people, even who were optimistic, thought, 48, 49, maybe they would crack the 50-win total. Well, like what Jared's saying, the pace they've been playing at for more than 2 months now is a 58-win pace.
Yeah.
This is surpassing any expectations anyone had in the preseason. We all picked them to finish around 46 and 45 wins, and the way they're going right now, they're going to blow by that. And so this is, I can't overstate how much of a turnaround this is for this team. We spent so much time talking about, they're not going to beat anyone in the first round of the playoffs.
Right.
And now they're sitting at the 3 seed, and I'm sitting here saying there's only 5 other teams in the NBA who I think are better than them, and Jared's saying only 4.
And also at the beginning of the season, I thought that they were going to start the season very well because their schedule was easy, and they were going to build a really great record the first couple months of the season.
Oh, yeah.
And then kind of fall apart as the schedule got tougher down the stretch.
That was
but
logical.
It's been the exact opposite.
Yeah.
That their schedule is more difficult now than it ever has been this season, and they're playing their best basketball and beating good teams.
How unpredictable has it been? I love that you bring that point up because even the tone in our Facebook Lives and podcasts have been all over the place. We've been down on this team.
Oh, yeah?
We've come at them and, said, we have no faith in this team. At this point, we should be talking about the lottery. We were a fringe playoff team, and now we're talking about them as a 3 seed, being having home court advantage in the first round. This is a crazy turnaround. Who could have predicted the type of defense that they've been playing as well?
Good point.
There's just so many pieces involved with this. The way that Damian Lillard has elevated his game and everyone's followed suit. These are the type of things that you can't predict, and I think that's what makes this game so much fun, is that these are things that seem logical. It makes sense that they would be a 45-win team. Yeah. And now we're talking about them on a pace of upper 50s. It's just insane. So back to the true or false, I think it's true.
Okay.
I think it's true. I think that this is the 5th best team in the league right now.
Right now.
We still have a long way to go, and I love that you bring up the Pelicans because they're playing just as hot, if not hotter, than the Blazers. So that would be a dream matchup this week if they were going head-to-head.
Yeah.
Just to see where they fall into place. But I think if they played right now, just based on your argument, I think that the Blazers would beat the Pelicans.
That's right.
But yeah, I think the record speaks for itself. I think that you have to give them credit where credit is due. And I think the problem with it is that it's the Blazers.
Yeah.
If this is the Cavs, if this is another team, we're like, oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Top 5 team. But since they have a history of not doing the right things or the things that we expect them to do, or we're guarded because we've lived this out already, we're scared to put them in that top 5. But they have a top 5 record.
Yeah.
I love it. I think it's so true.
Could you imagine if let's use the Lakers as an example, have gone on the run?
Oh,
the
God.
Blazers have gone on.
Oh, we would never hear the end of the Lakers.
And the talk in the NBA would be, could the Lakers be a team who could beat the Warriors and Rockets or compete with them in a 7-game series? No one's talking about that with the Blazers. People are talking about, well, they're hot right now, but they're not going to keep this.
They're talking about LeBron coming to LA. That's what they're talking about.
They're not a real threat. That's just how the perception is for the Blazers. So
it's a hard thing to fathom.
It is a hard thing
what the Blazers
to fathom.
are doing.
And I think this team kind of fuels off that. I think they I don't know if they like being ignored, but I think it definitely continues to add fuel to the fire to them to continue to prove people wrong.
I saw part of the interview with Ed Davis on NBC Sports Northwest, and he's like, just accept it for what it is.
Yeah.
Stop making excuses for us why we're winning. Yeah, this team was without star player.
Yeah.
Or, we're beating bad teams. That's our record. This is who we are. Accept it.
Why do you guys think that is? Because going back to, I listened to the Low Post last week where they talked about the Blazers, the Ringer podcast for the NBA where they talked about the Blazers today, and I also listened to Ben Golliver and Andrew Sharp on the SI podcast. And on Low Post, they talked about the Blazers, said they're playing well, but if they start losing, then they're going to have to trade away CJ.
Oh, God.
And then on the SI podcast, on the Ringer podcast, they talked about how, they're playing well, but if, in the playoffs, they're going to fall apart because their defense isn't any good. And I'm like, are you even watching the Blazers? Right. And so why are the Blazers not getting the credit right now for the way that they're playing?
Because this is going to be part of it. They're not watching the Blazers.
Right.
These people.
Right.
That's also part of it.
Right.
You know, they see
And that
us.
is not entirely their fault.
No, it's not.
I don't want
mean,
to
you
stay
can't watch,
as
you
late
can't-
as they'd have to.
I mean,
on the
and
West Coast.
they have their jobs, and, you know, they focus on the teams they're supposed to focus on. And, you know, the Blazers nationally aren't a team that's going to draw a ton of people.
Man.
I mean, no one knew Damian Lillard did what he did against the Suns, but then he did pretty much the same exact thing against the Lakers.
And they lost their minds.
And everyone was doing it. Everyone
Yeah.
knew about it.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of just the way it is with the Blazers. No one outside of the Pacific Northwest is really paying attention to the Blazers. So they're just quietly going on this run, and to your point about Ed Davis saying, you know, they're making excuses while other teams have injuries. Yeah, other teams have injuries while they're beating bad teams. Well, what else are you supposed to do?
That's part of it.
Like,
that is part of the NBA.
Like, why is beating teams you're supposed to beat like a knock on you?
Yeah.
That's a sign of a good team,
Yeah.
if anything. And the Blazers are also beating good
Yeah,
teams.
they've flipped that narrative lately.
Yeah. And I think it's two things to your point. One is reputation.
Yeah.
And two is where we're located.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, even when I was living in the mountain time zone, the Blazers were an afterthought. Like, it took those TNT games where I'm kind of laying around like, okay, you know what, it's already 11 o'clock. Like, let's see the end of this game that's on the West Coast. Like, no one really cares on that side, on the East Coast, until you do something spectacular, or, you know, you light up another star, or you're going head-to-head in these marquee matchups. And now, being third place in the West, like, this is definitely helpful for that brand and for the recognition and for the respect that the team thinks that they
I mean,
deserve.
they're talking about the Blazers on a national level now, even if they're, you know,
I think they
backhanded
led the
compliments.
jump the other day on ESPN, which is pretty cool.
What do you think it would take for the Blazers to kind of cement all of our thoughts that they could be a top 5 NBA team at the end of the year?
I don't think that would happen until they have playoff success.
Like what playoff success?
I think that's what it'll take.
Okay,
You know, not only here, not only on a national level, but here as well. And I think it is because, like you said, reputation. We've seen what this team has done the past couple seasons, where they've started off slow, had a really good run in the second half of the season. And granted, 2 years ago they made the second round of the playoffs, but that was because they had, you know, some injury help from the Clippers in the first round. And then last year, you know, Nurkic got hurt, and they weren't that competitive against the Warriors in the first round. So I think it would take some playoff success for people to think this Blazers team is different than what they've been the last 2 seasons.
And that's a completely fair assessment, because even if they did finish with 50 wins this year, which would be a heck of a way to finish the season,
yeah, it would.
And they would definitely, if they get to 50 wins, they're going to be the 3 seed, regardless of what any other team does out there.
They're all playing each other.
Exactly. So if they get to 50 wins, they're going to be the 3 seed. But you're right. If they got to the 3 seed and despite this run lost in the first round to, say, if the Pelicans were the 6th seed or something like that.
Right now it would be the Timberwolves.
And they may have Jimmy Butler back come that time. And so
it's a different team with that guy on the floor.
You're right. I think you're absolutely right about that. It's going to take playoff success for them to kind of earn that rep. But right now they are absolutely belonging in the conversation with the way